What if winning $1 million only postpones bankruptcy? One landmark study of lottery winners found that while they were 50% less likely to go broke in the first 2 years, they were actually more likely than non-winners to go bankrupt 3 to 5 years later. This is the paradox of the lottery. You imagine a life of endless freedom, security, and happiness. You think, that would never happen to me. I'd be smart. I'd hire the right people. But the reality for many winners is a psychological storm that no amount of money can shield them from. Your brain isn't designed to handle a sudden, massive, unearned influx of wealth. It short-circuits the very systems you rely on for rational decision-making, turning a dream come true into a predictable pattern of financial and emotional ruin. It's not a character flaw. It's a cognitive trap. Let's start by demolishing the biggest myth. You've heard the statistic. 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years. It's been repeated by news outlets and financial gurus for decades, but it's completely false. The organization that supposedly produced this stat, the National Endowment for Financial Education, has publicly disavowed it, stating it never conducted such a study. The number seems to have originated from an unverified comment at a symposium in 2001. The real figure, according to bodies like the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, is closer to 1/3. Still alarmingly high, but the reality is far more nuanced than the myth suggests. The real danger isn't a simple story of foolish spending. It's a recognized psychological condition sometimes called sudden wealth syndrome. This isn't about being bad with money. It's about your mind being thrown into a state of shock and disorientation. The sudden wealth triggers intense anxiety, paranoia, guilt, and a profound identity crisis. Imagine your entire life context, your job, your social circle, your daily struggles, your future plans, being erased overnight. You're left floating in a vacuum with a mountain of cash and no map. This psychological distress clouds your judgment, making you vulnerable to bad advice, emotional decisions, and the predatory intentions of others. The money is just the catalyst for a much deeper mental breakdown. So, if it's not just about being irresponsible, what's really going on inside your head? In this video, we're going to dissect the 4 cognitive traps that your own brain sets for you when you're hit with sudden wealth. We'll explore the neuroscience of the dopamine deluge, the accounting trick your mind plays on you, the treadmill of happiness that goes nowhere, and the social pressures that turn a blessing into a curse. By the end, you won't just see why some winners fail, you'll understand the fundamental architecture of your financial mind. Trap number 1. The dopamine deluge. When you see those matching numbers, your brain doesn't register it as a financial event. It registers it as a monumental, life-altering reward, triggering a massive flood of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and motivation. This isn't the gentle satisfaction of an earned paycheck. It's a neurological tsunami. This surge of dopamine effectively hijacks your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and rational thought. It screams, "You are invincible. The rules don't apply anymore." Your rational brain is essentially sedated, leaving your most primitive, impulsive desires in the driver's seat. This is why the first few months are often a blur of Lamborghinis, mansions, and disastrous investments. Trap 2 is a subtle but powerful cognitive bias, mental accounting. Coined by behavioral economist Richard Thaler, this is your brain's tendency to treat money differently based on where it came from. The $1,000 you earn through 40 hours of hard labor is mentally filed under sacred. You protect it, budget it, and spend it cautiously. But the $1,000 you win from a scratch ticket, your brain files that under house money or found money. It feels less real, less valuable. It isn't tied to effort, so losing it doesn't feel like a true loss. This is why lottery winners are prone to taking enormous risks and spending with a frivolity they would never apply to their salary. This mental accounting glitch has profound consequences. When money feels disconnected from effort, your internal valuation system breaks down. You might spend $10 million on a mansion that costs a fortune in taxes and upkeep, a decision you would never make if that $10 million was the result of a lifetime of savings. The money is treated like monopoly money, a fun resource for a game, not the foundation of your future security. This explains why winners often fund absurdly risky business ventures from friends and family or fall for obvious scams. The money simply doesn't occupy the same mental space as the funds you worked for. Trap 3 is perhaps the most insidious, hedonic adaptation. This is the scientific term for the hedonic treadmill. Your brain has a baseline level of happiness. When something amazing happens, like winning the lottery, you get a huge spike in happiness, but it's temporary. Your brain quickly adapts to the new reality. The mansion, the sports car, the endless vacation, they become your new normal. The thrill fades, and your happiness level returns to its original baseline. To get the same thrill, you now need an even bigger mansion, a faster car, a more exotic vacation. It's a race you can never win. This adaptation process is a core feature of your psychology, designed to keep you stable. But for a lottery winner, it has a devastating side effect. As you adapt to a life of peak experiences, your ability to enjoy simple everyday pleasures diminishes. The classic 1978 study by Brickman, Coates, and Janoff-Bulman confirmed this. They found that lottery winners were not significantly happier than a control group. More importantly, they reported getting significantly less pleasure from mundane events like talking with a friend, reading a book, or receiving a compliment. When you can fly to Paris for dinner, a really good cup of coffee just doesn't register anymore. This emotional numbness can lead to profound feelings of emptiness and isolation. Trap 4 is lifestyle inflation on steroids. Most people experience lifestyle inflation gradually. You get a raise, you buy a slightly nicer car, or move to a bigger apartment. It's a slow creep. For a lottery winner, it's not a creep, it's a quantum leap. You go from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 10-bedroom estate overnight. You hire staff, join exclusive clubs, and start flying private. This new high-cost lifestyle becomes your identity. The problem is that while it's easy to inflate your lifestyle, it is psychologically excruciating to deflate it. Once you get used to a certain standard of living, giving it up feels like a profound failure, even if it's financially necessary. This creates a death spiral. As the winnings start to dwindle from taxes, bad investments, and high overhead, the winner faces a choice: drastically cut back and admit defeat, or maintain the illusion of wealth by dipping into capital. The psychological pain of downsizing is so great that many choose the latter. They sell assets, take on debt, and double down on risky ventures, hoping for another miracle win to sustain their unsustainable life. This is why you see stories of winners who burned through $100 million. It's not that they spent it all on yachts. It's that they built a $100 million lifestyle that required constant, massive cash flow to maintain, and they couldn't bear to let it go. Beyond your own psychology, the world around you changes instantly. Suddenly, you are no longer a person. You are a resource. You become a walking, talking bullseye for everyone with a sob story, a bad business idea, or a fake charity. The social pressure is immense. Long-lost cousins materialize out of thin air. Friends' attitudes change, colored by envy or expectation. This forces you into a state of constant paranoia and social isolation. You can't trust anyone's motives. Is this person being friendly because they like you or because they want a piece of your fortune? This relentless suspicion erodes your most important relationships, leaving you wealthy but utterly alone. The money that was supposed to connect you to a world of opportunity ends up severing you from genuine human connection. Finally, there's the profound identity crisis. For most of your life, your identity is tied to your work, your skills, your struggles, and your ambitions. You are a teacher, a plumber, an artist. When a massive windfall allows you to quit your job, you don't just lose a source of income. You lose a core part of who you are. The daily routine, the sense of purpose, the camaraderie with colleagues, it all vanishes. You are left with a void. You are no longer John the construction worker. You are John the lottery winner. This new identity is hollow. It's not based on what you've done or who you are, but simply on what you have. Let's revisit that fascinating Florida bankruptcy study. Economists tracked winners of prizes between $50,000 and $150,000. In the first 2 years, these winners were about 50% less likely to declare bankruptcy than a control group. The money worked as a shield, paying off debts and providing a buffer. But the story flips completely in years 3 to 5. In that period, the same winners were suddenly just as likely, and in some cases more likely, to go bankrupt than people who hadn't won at all. This is crucial. It shows the money didn't solve the underlying financial problems, it just put them on pause. It was a temporary fix, not a permanent cure for poor financial habits. The deeper implication of the Florida study is that a windfall doesn't magically grant you financial literacy. If you had poor spending habits, a difficult relationship with debt, or no long-term savings plan before you won, the money doesn't fix that. It amplifies it. It gives you a much larger canvas on which to paint the same picture of financial mismanagement. A $50,000 credit card debt becomes a $500,000 mortgage on a house you can't afford. The scale of the mistakes becomes catastrophic. The money isn't a cure. It's an accelerant for your pre-existing financial behaviors, good or bad. And the financial contagion can even spread to your neighbors. A study published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia found a bizarre and telling side effect of winning the lottery. It increases the bankruptcy rate of those living nearby. The bigger the prize, the higher the rate of subsequent financial distress in the local area. This is the keeping up with the Joneses effect on a massive scale. You park a new Lamborghini in your driveway, and your neighbor, feeling a mix of envy and social pressure, goes out and leases a luxury car they can't afford. Your good fortune creates a new, visible standard of consumption that can push your entire social circle into making poor financial decisions. However, it's crucial to understand that financial ruin is not the only outcome. A series of rigorous studies on thousands of Swedish lottery winners paints a very different picture. Economists found that, contrary to the popular narrative, the vast majority of winners in Sweden held on to their wealth for well over a decade. They didn't quit their jobs, though they did tend to work slightly less or take longer vacations. Most importantly, they reported sustained increases in overall life satisfaction that didn't fade over time. The lottery curse narrative, at least in Sweden, was proven to be a media-driven fiction. The winners were, by and large, happier, healthier, and richer for the long haul. So why the dramatic difference between the Swedish success stories and the American tragedies? The research doesn't give a single answer, but it points to a few key factors. Swedish lottery prizes, while significant, are often paid out in monthly installments over many years, preventing the initial dopamine deluge and forcing a more measured approach. Furthermore, a robust social safety net and a culture that is generally less focused on conspicuous consumption may provide a less volatile environment for new wealth. It suggests that the outcome of winning isn't just about the individual's psychology, but also the financial and cultural systems they are embedded in. The structure of the payout and the society around you matter immensely. Let's go back to that foundational 1978 study by Brickman. The results are worth repeating because they are so counterintuitive. They compared 22 lottery winners to 22 non-winners. On a 5-point happiness scale, the winners rated their current happiness at an average of 4.0. The control group, they rated theirs at 3.82. Statistically, this is not a significant difference. The life-changing event of winning millions did not produce a measurably happier human being in the long run. But the truly stunning finding was about pleasure. When asked to rate the pleasure they got from everyday activities, the winner's average score was 3.33, while the control group's was 3.82. This was a significant drop. Winning the lottery made life's simple joys less joyful. So, let's quickly recap what people get wrong. Misconception number 1. 70% of winners go bankrupt. We now know this is a myth. The real number is likely closer to 1/3. While that's still a terrible outcome, it means 2/3 of winners do not go bankrupt. Ruin is a significant risk, not an absolute certainty. The story of what happens after you win is one you still have the power to write, provided you understand the psychological forces at play. The myth creates a sense of learned helplessness, but the reality is one of agency. Misconception number 2. Winning the lottery is a ticket to permanent happiness. The science is clear. This is false. The initial euphoria is a temporary spike, and your happiness level will almost certainly return to its genetic baseline due to hedonic adaptation. Not only that, but your ability to enjoy the small, frequent pleasures that actually sustain long-term contentment may be permanently damaged. The pursuit of a constant high often leads to a life that feels surprisingly low. True wealth isn't about peak experiences. It's about raising your baseline of daily satisfaction, something a lottery win can paradoxically make harder. And the final misconception: all lottery winners are reckless and foolish. The media loves to showcase the most sensational stories of ruin because they make for good television. But the quiet, less dramatic stories, like those of the Swedish winners, tell us something different. Many people successfully manage their winnings. They spend it gradually, invest it wisely, and use it to enhance their lives without destroying them. The stereotype of the clueless winner blowing it all is just that, a stereotype. The reality is a spectrum of outcomes, determined less by raw intelligence and more by psychological preparedness, sound advice, and the systems in place to manage the shock. Understanding these psychological traps isn't about shunning wealth. It's about preparing your mind to master it, not be mastered by it.